Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. My guest today is Peter Hopwood. He is a British citizen that's been living in Croatia for quite a while now, and he shares a ton of information on what life is like as an expat in Croatia, from the north, where it's much more rural and more local, to the sunny south with a lot more expats and island life and everything in between. So Croatia is one of those hot spots in the world where a lot of people are flocking to, and we thought it was great to dive into Croatia a little bit. We also talk a lot about his work as a TedX speaking coach and someone who's transitioning to helping people present themselves from in-person to more of the virtual world and how you can do that successfully. So talking about some of the remote work principles and best practices around this was also really interesting, since he is such a professional in this area. We had a great time talking. I hope you enjoy. Please help me in welcoming Peter to About Abroad. So your work beforehand, before COVID, was more so you were meeting with leaders and people who are going to be giving public speaking engagements, things like this, coaching them through their presence and their stage presence, pretty much, and their delivery and their presentation. Is that correct? Fair
Absolutely,
to say?
absolutely. From CEOs who simply needed to speak in front of their teams with more confidence and more ease, internally or even externally, in front of media or coming into the company, for example, to startups founders who really need to impress in that investor pitch, condensing these stories, the data, the ideas, bringing them down into something really simple, really impactful, and something that everybody can understand. So it was pretty much that, like you say.
How'd you get in? I'm curious about two things. Like, first of all, how'd you get into that? And then secondly, what is something you see very differently? I guess I'll phrase the second part of the question with an example. There are some people that are really good at on-screen presentations, but they may not be great in front. Maybe they get stage fright when they're actually in front of people, and vice versa. I know some people that are really good on stage, but when you put them at the laptop and they try to present, it just doesn't have the same oomph that it does on stage. So give me a little background real quick on how you got to be in this position, because it sounds really great. And then answer that question for me.
So many years ago, something like 25 years ago, after my studies at art school, I left, and I left Britain from a place called Watford near London, and I just had the travel bug, and I wanted to discover things and just curious. I went to live in Paris, Marseille, Malta, Madeira, so different jobs and a kind of mixture of working and studying, and these were over a period of a year, 2 years, I think it was about 3.5 years in France, and then I went to work for a British tour company, a tour operator. So literally working in resorts, welcoming British tourists to those resorts, and being their contact man, being their go-to person to make sure everything runs smoothly in terms of their holiday. So when they had complaints, they come to me. When they're not happy, they come to me. When they want to discover what to do in the resort, they come to me. So a lot of what I was doing was presenting. Myself, for trying to be somebody, aiming to gain that trust, so they would come to me, and so I could help them, but also help them discover what to do and see. So that presenting role was a selling role, really. So I was presenting constantly presenting in front of 100, 200, 300 people, something like 4 times a week, the same presentation every single time. So the same content. So I'm selling the same thing all the time. And when you do something, when you do something many, many times, you get really confident at it. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're good at it.
Mm.
Think about that. Whatever we do many times, our brain tells us that we get more confident at it and we feel stronger because we've done it many times. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it in the right way, right? So
Correct.
I realized sometimes I wasn't doing it in the right way. And how did I know? Because of the money coming into my pocket every month. You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And that all it depended on, I realized the big factors in this were how I felt about what I was talking about, how I moved, what I said, words I used, the way I shared my messages, and how they felt about me.
Wow. I mean, you've really arrived at this point of really being in the epicenter of your craft. But when you talked a few minutes ago about the beginning of your story, it sounded like you were kind of trying to find your path a little bit. You lived in France for a little while. You lived in Madeira. You lived in a couple other places. You eventually landed in Croatia. And so something I find really interesting, like I said, is like people that come on the show that end up living these really interesting, unique, exciting lives in various countries around the world, doing things that they're really passionate about. They often didn't get there linearly. It wasn't just this like stepping stone path, like climbing a corporate ladder. You had to find your way through that, whether it was living in different places, trying different things. You started to, by selling vacation packages to people and dealing with people mad at you that the clouds had rolled in, like you could change that. And you end up where you are today. And so I think there's a lot to be said for like travel is a great way to educate yourself on who you are and learn more about the world and what you really want to do. And you obviously took that path. And so do you think that kind of helped, like those travel experiences, living in different countries, did that kind of help you get to where you are today, you think?
Absolutely. No, 100%. So travel can help us in so many ways, right? It helps us, feel good. It helps us sort of say to ourselves, wow, my identity, I can take my identity somewhere else and discover something else around me, my environment. It can also help with confidence. And I think it does help a lot of people with their own self-confidence. When I was a lot younger, the day I arrived in Paris many years ago, the first time when I went to Paris to live with all my bags, I got into the room and I sat down and it was a shithole. It really was. And I did think to myself, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing here?
I know this feeling well.
And then as everything became really curious to me, and wow, I've left Watford and I've come to Paris, and my French is getting better day by day. I'm building up, small relationships with friends, creating a small group of friends around me. So it builds up confidence. And then I think that helps you to discover more. So from then on, I then went to the south of France. My mother's family, actually, she was French Maltese, were from Marseille. So it was an opportunity for me to sort of meet more of the family and discover another part of France, a completely different part of France in terms of language, culture, feeling, and an attitude. And then again, it just gives you this not a bug, but it gives you this confidence to say to yourself, well, I can, where next? And that was, I just kept doing that. And I think I kind of neglected kind of career wise. I wasn't even thinking of really what my career is going to end up, what it's going to be or what I'm going to do. My main concern was keep moving and keep earning enough to get by, really. And presenting, when I got into the role of working for the tour operator, again, it opened up lots of doors in terms of more travel because it was a travel company. But again, presenting, all these roles I was in helped me to build up my own confidence in terms of presenting ideas, connecting with people, many times doing it really well and sometimes not doing it good at all.
I want to ask you a little bit about Croatia and how Croatia came to be where you call home. You've been there for how many years? You said, I think you said
21 this year, actually.
21 years.
Actually, in a couple of days, I was thinking about it. A couple of days, it's going to be 21 years. And I was actually thinking, so I don't really post on LinkedIn. my page and what I share is all about speaking and virtual presence and trying to help people to master this, rather than more personal stuff about Croatia and tourism and all those kinds of things. But I was thinking I might actually post just a post that just says I'm here for 21 years, and it's funny how things just turn up and evolve and unfold without you really knowing it. There are a lot of great things here. As somebody living here, quite different from perhaps somebody who would just kind of pop in and pop out as a visitor or a tourist, or even a digital nomad. So, but generally, very happy here. My daughters are here. I got married to a Croatian lady who I met when I first came here to work for that tour operator in another part of the country, a beautiful part of the country called Istria, a lovely little town called Rovin. She was from the other part of the country, in the northern part, from a very small town, Baroque town, with a lovely castle called Varaždin. They call it the small Vienna, in fact, because a lot of the architecture there and the churches were built within the Austrian-Hungarian Empire and built by the same architects that actually constructed a lot of Vienna. So it's very small, very petite, pedestrianized center. And that's where I spent most of 15 years. I divorced that lady. I had two daughters who were born in Croatia. They're Croatian naturally and half English because of their dad. When I divorced, I moved down to the coast. So again, a completely different place in terms of temperature, in terms of attitude to life, in terms of the culture and what happens here. This is really where the tourists come, visitors. In the north, very different. I was the only I think there were two other Englishmen at the time in that town, living there for years. So I would very rarely speak to anybody who wasn't Croatian, which was great for my Croatian. In fact, it helped me really improve and really get a grasp of the language. Whereas coming here, it's completely different. It's lovely. Lots of different islands in front. There are more than 1,000 islands across Croatia, but a lot of that, a big bunch of those are actually here in this southern part of the country. Yeah, it's Croatia is very interesting because it has many different areas. A lot of people often just come to the south, Dubrovnik, Split, Hvar, the islands, as a visitor, as a tourist, as somebody to soak up the sun and enjoy the culture here, which is wonderful. But in fact, there are many different areas. There's the northern part, there's Istria as well, which is close to Italy, and it's a lot more Italian mentality, and maybe also hardworking as well, slightly more hardworking in the south, which is quite common with many different countries as well. Same in Spain as well, I'm sure. So I used to live in Granada. I lived in Granada for a while, and Mallorca. I used to make trips quite often from Mallorca to Palma to Barcelona for different things. Yeah.
I spent some time in Granada as well. Actually, I spent a month in Granada. I thought actually Granada was where I wanted to go. I had visited and then said, "Oh, I think I want to live here." My wife and I did, and we went and stayed for a month. We ended up realizing it was a little too small for us, but gorgeous. I love that
very
place.
Small, but a gorgeous little place. Yeah, I was there for about just under a year, and it gave me a chance to kind of really discover the Andalusia and all the many things you can see there while you're there. But going back to Croatia, in terms of living here and staying here, again, you've got to appreciate the things that maybe you don't appreciate so much without really realizing it. Like crime there's no crime here, hardly any crime. It's very safe, extremely safe, generally. Great place to bring up kids. There's different vibe here, and even as a tourist, if you're looking for something slightly different in terms of, not mass tourism, you don't have the mass tourism here in July and August. A lot of people naturally, but it's not the same. It's the prices here are slightly higher, maybe than other, like compared to package tourism, because we don't really have it here. The prices are slightly higher, which is good because it actually doesn't attract. So we don't really see football shirts. So football shirts during the summer. Mallorca, you'd see them everywhere. Spain, Valencia, you'd see them everywhere, right? Alicante,
Correct.
everywhere. Whereas here, you don't really see football shirts at all, which is a really good, I think, interesting reflection of the people that come here. People here are they want to discover the culture. They want that relaxation. They want to see that it isn't as built up as many other places. So as a visitor, as a tourist, it's great. We move on to the idea of, digital nomads, which is really a hot topic right now in many countries around the world. Croatia has really taken up that idea and adopting the many benefits of or helping digital nomads or remote workers choose Croatia as their destination.
Yeah, and I mean it's already one of those. Up and coming isn't even the right word anymore, because I think it was up and coming probably on that sort of like digital nomad list, or like the world travelers of the world that are looking for that kind of next European hotspot to go to. Croatia's been on that list for several years now. I think Dubrovnik's been photographed on Instagram more than anywhere in the world probably these last five years or so. But now with this digital nomad visa, and I think even more people getting access to full location independence and remote work, it could see a whole new wave of like hey, maybe we want to call this place home, like Peter's done. Maybe we want to stay for years, years or longer. Great culture, access to the rest of Europe, beautiful beaches, amazing national parks. I mean, there's a lot to love there, and I'm curious to see how this shift in the workplace and these access to this visa, for instance, for digital nomads, I wonder how it's going to shape things, in this country that's it's got so much to offer.
Yeah, really interesting. It's an interesting concept, and so remember, this digital nomad, it's more of a permit than a visa. Letting you stay, I believe, letting you stay until up to a year. So again, I think it's non-Euro. I'm not a high expert on this, but I believe it's not for EU citizens. But if you're from outside of the EU, it's a great place to stay longer than, I think originally it was something like 90 days you could stay here. But now you can actually live here for a year. There are restrictions in place, naturally, and certain things, criteria you have to follow. But definitely, I think it is really a good place to settle for, a month, 6 months, up to a year. There's no hassle here. The lifestyle is pretty laid back, which in many ways can help you if you're a digital nomad, naturally.
Yeah.
And your work is not in Croatia, can really be a good thing, because you can focus on what you have to focus on, but still enjoy the lifestyle and the relaxation. And okay, so the bringing people to Croatia isn't just about the southern part of the country, although naturally, because of the sunshine and the weather and the temperature, the islands, it seems to attract naturally more people coming here maybe than other parts of Croatia. So just having sunshine and a place where everybody can communicate really well in English, let's say, small things, but they mean a lot,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This season is brought to you by my good friends over at Insured Nomads. They're the absolute best in the business when it comes to providing health, travel, and medical insurance for nomads, expats, and really just all forms of world travelers. I know insurance is often something that's overlooked when we're fantasizing about traveling the world, but it's absolutely necessity that we address this, because often the policy you have in your home country isn't going to cover you while you're abroad. And it's also a requirement, as a lot of people may not realize, to actually buy private travel or expat insurance, as it's called sometimes, to obtain a visa or even enter certain countries. So fortunately, there are companies like Insured Nomads to help us with this. Not only do they have excellent coverage and great prices, but they're also providing a first-class experience with additional perks and best-in-class technology via their app. It's an amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough. Now, this is a company that was built by world travelers for world travelers, so they know what it's like to find yourself in a difficult medical situation abroad, and they want to keep you from having that same bad experience. So the next time you're planning a trip abroad, whether it's for a week or a lifetime, check out Insured Nomads via the link in the show notes. Okay, now back to the episode. You touched on this a minute ago, and I'm curious to pick your brain on it a little further as someone that's been there for 20 plus years. The difference between the North, the South, and let's maybe carve out a third area, which is kind of its own geographic thing, is the islands. Can you kind of paint some broad strokes for us on like generally what the North, if you know, I'm thinking about this from the standpoint of like someone who's considering coming to Croatia now, and they're trying to pick where they're going to call home.
Sure.
You know,
Okay. Okay. Good. That's a good question. So, okay, if we pick on those three areas, so the North, and then we've got the South, Dalmatia, let's say, and which is connected with, we'll connect Dubrovnik with that. And then the islands, which are again in the South, majority of them in the South, like Far and islands like that. Okay. So the North, think rural, think hills. Think you have the capital of Zagreb in the north. It's not too far from Slovenian border, not too far from the Hungarian border as well. But remember, it's quite rural. Outside of Zagreb, the city, the location, the destination you're looking for, a great compact capital city. Again, a lot more relaxed perhaps than other cities, less hustle and bustle, but still you can sort of find that cultural element, certainly in the architecture, in what you see and what you feel from the cafes, from the interactions you have with the local people that live there as well. There aren't too many although more foreign nationals are coming to visit and stay, the kind of, if we call it an expat community, has never really been very big at all compared to the whole of the country, or even compared to other locations and destinations around the world or around Europe. So everywhere I've been, there's often been a large expat community, which is really small here. So that can have its benefits, right? So again, outside of Zagreb, it's very rural. I lived in that very small town, 45,000 people, called Varaždin, petite, nice, a place where kind of everybody knew everybody's business. So visiting there for a day or two is lovely. I really, really would recommend it. If you're going to Zagreb, or if you're staying in Zagreb and you want a day trip somewhere, Varaždin is certainly a place I would recommend. However, to live there is a different kettle of fish, really. And for my situation, because I was, married there, and so my whole world, it was my world was Croatian. Right. So, but if you're a digital nomad, or you're coming to visit and you're staying there for 6 months or so, if you want to kind of be even more, not secluded, but more kind of separated from real European life, I would say that's the kind of sort of the northern small towns around Zagreb would be great for you. And some people want that. Some people like that rural lifestyle. Some people like that like those lovely views of hills and also it sounds like a bit of a disconnection from the expat community, like you're not going to get, whereas maybe in the South physically, you're going to find more of a melting pot. Physically, as we're all connected now online, it makes everything a lot more connected anyway. And that's, at the end of the day, if you're a digital nomad, that's part of what you're doing, isn't it? Connecting. So it doesn't matter where you are physically. So physically, if you want to be physically kind of slightly more separated, that's the place to be. If you come right the way down to the south where I am, on the coast, during the summertime, it's from April, May until end of September, start of October, it's lots of people from all around the world come here to visit for a week, 2-week holiday, 10 days to relax and enjoy themselves. So it has that real kind of European bustle and kind of good vibe feel every day of those months, so people are outside, coffee bars, not drinking beer. I wouldn't say so. Beer isn't, you don't really find too many people like you do in other parts of other cities, certainly the cities that I've lived in. 1 o'clock in the morning, people drunk and behaving. So it's again,
Benidorm in Spain would.
That's right, exactly. So it's completely different from that. Completely different. So it's a great feel certainly here in those months. Weather's great. It's a city where, and there are more and more expats visiting here and staying here. And so if you look at the whole of Croatia, where are most of the people that are staying here, that are living here, I would say majority are all along this Dalmatian coast. Certain number in the capital, but majority, a heat map, let's say, the hotspots will be more along the coast, and naturally because of the sunshine, and because often in the past it would be because people like me who've married somebody from Croatia. I chose it because it gave me a chance to really enjoy the weather, which for me means a lot. So my mother, as I say, was French Maltese, and so we, I just think within me, I've got this kind of feel towards the sun and towards the sea. So I think back, and most of the places that I lived in, a lot of them started with M. Marseille, Malta, Madeira, Mallorca, and then, Budapest, Paris, Rovin. So different ones, but a lot of them started with MA, and a lot of them were islands. So Malta, Madeira, on the coast there by the sea, in Marseille, Mallorca. So I
recognized this trend, or I was going to bring this up actually.
Somehow I've always been attracted to water. Maybe that's in my genes somewhere from my grandparents who are from Malta, and that kind of trickled down somewhere. So I've ended up here 21 years now in the country, and I, happy here, and my kids are here. So for me, it's really my home now. So even staying here for 21 years, whether do I feel more Croatian than British? That's a whole different story. And again, it all depends on where you're living and how society perceives you, I think, and how you perceive society. But that's a whole new idea for another podcast episode. So that's Dalmatia.
We'll have to do a round two.
Yeah. If we look at the islands, so the islands are sort of just many of them all along the coast, from the north part to the south. However, you find the majority of islands are in the south, or this is really the islands that will attract people. So you've got lots of lovely islands. Hvar is a very popular island indeed, where the rich and famous go. When they come to Croatia, they pop over to there because it's very luxurious. It's become a luxurious island, quite expensive, quite a lot more expensive. Not too expensive for foreign natives, foreign people that are coming here, but maybe for the locals, it's on the list of places which are kind of more expensive for the local people that are from here. But lovely place. Great water all around those islands as well. You've got other islands, like a little smaller island a little further way out called Vis. This is where Mamma Mia 2, if you remember that film, it was filmed on that island. So there are many. There was a film called Bliss actually not so long ago, filmed here in Split as well. So there are more movie companies actually that are coming here and realizing it's quite cheap to set up their film set here, and less restrictions, but giving really good views and images for their films. So the islands are great. Whether they're actually spots to live for more than 6, 7, 8 months, up to a year. Again, if you like to be secluded, separated perhaps more than maybe others. Mm-hmm. If you want that, if you're really looking for that relaxed lifestyle, because out of the summer months, the islands are, really, these are places which, don't have much life at all.
Right.
And if you're prepared for that and you're ready for that and you appreciate that, then great. But it's very different. So the summer months, as they are in many places, Spain, it's very different because majority of the year you have this tourism going around, all the way through. Mallorca as an island, although it changes after the summer, it still has winter sun and is still as promoted as a winter sun destination, right?
Right, yeah.
Whereas Croatia, we only have April till end of September, start of October.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. So it's and that affects a lot of things. It affects a lot of things within the economy, because whatever you implement, anything to do with tourism, you implement that, you know, you're only going to get money coming in for that period of the time of the year, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so very different two sides of the tourism sector, let's say, very vibrant and attracting more and more people every year, and then you've got the out of season time where things are kind of everything's shut up, all the restaurants stop, less people. A lot of these small towns with that, you know, take away the visitors, and you're left with everybody who lives there, very small indeed. You know, Croatia is a country with just 4.5 million altogether. You see what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
but again, if you're looking for that and you appreciate that, and if you want to go for that, then that's wonderful. You know,
Yeah.
so
In a relatively small country, you have quite a lot of diversity in terms of like options. You know, like you can escape. You can be in cities. You can be in small rural towns. You can have hills and mountains, or national
absolutely,
parks,
you're
or
right.
island life, and yeah.
Absolutely, you got it there. So you got the islands, you got the lovely cities, you got the Roman cities, wonderful national parks, which are many of them unlike anywhere else you've ever seen. The wonderful waterfalls of Plitvice, 16 different cascading waterfalls all together, really, really amazing views. You know, within this
Yeah.
almost central part of the country, you've got the northern parts. Again, you've got the kind of baroque towns, little baroque cities and towns, which really have this kind of, as I say, Vienna feel to them, that continental style of architecture. Yeah, and then you've got, you know, you're very close to Italy, northern part. The eastern part of Italy, not too far from Venice. Again, if you want to make that trip across from Istria, there's boats that go straight across to Venice. Slovenia border, Hungarian border, not too far away. If we go down the south, again, Bosnia is just a stone's throw away from, if you're in Dalmatia, not far away at all. So you can really discover things. If you really want to discover, if you're a digital nomad and you're thinking, okay, I want a place which is relaxed, a place where I can really focus on my work. But when I turn off, when I log off, I can really enjoy and discover something different, something new, and really feel curious about things, and good weather and good food. Then, and you want to discover things that are close by that maybe you haven't seen before, you know, Croatia is certainly a choice, certainly a good choice on that list.
Yeah, it's somehow a place that keeps evading me. I've wanted to go for years and I've missed it somehow. It's been just pushed back up to the top of my bucket list with our conversation here today, Peter. So thank you for reminding me of all the reasons why I need to make it the next place on my list of places to go, for sharing some insider knowledge, and also for talking some about, you know, this subject of how to portray ourselves both virtually and in person. It all wrapped up into a really nice
Great.
mix of content
Yeah,
for our listeners. So
absolutely,
appreciate
absolutely.
it.
And listen, if anyone is, you know, out there and you're thinking about Croatia, it's on your mind, you're thinking maybe either just to visit here, to work here for a month or two, which you know you can easily do that and come in as a tourist and have a little bit of a trial period. Or if you're really seriously thinking, you know, this could actually be my next destination or first destination, working remotely, and then having that identity of a digital nomad, then I think the best thing to do is you can either reach out to me, but even better, the Digital Nomad Association, which was created this year, start of this year, I think. A good friend of mine called Tanya, just have to reach out to her. So Digital Nomad Association, you can find it online on LinkedIn. That'll give you lots of information. Reach out to a lady called Tanya, and she will give you, she's a Australian who's been here a few years as well, with Croatian roots. You know, she can give you everything. She can tell you everything you need to know, the ins and outs of becoming a digital nomad, certainly here in in Split, but she'll give you information about the whole of Croatia as well.
Fantastic. We'll maybe need to get her on the show and supplement what the good info that you've already shared. We'll I've got links to all your websites and your social handles and everything to go in the show notes. If you want to mention anywhere that people should follow you here while they're listening, feel free to tell them where to go.
Listen, I mean, the only thing really, if you're listening to this, you're thinking to yourself, perhaps, I need my teams, the company I work for, we need to brush up on the way we show up online and on the way we connect with potential clients, the way we connect through meetings, the way we boost up that trust and engagement when we're dealing with virtual exchanges, then please do reach out to me on LinkedIn, maybe a little note to say that you've listened to this podcast, this conversation, so I know where you're coming from, and then we can see where we can collaborate. Right now I'm really focused on, over the last 9 months, in fact, virtual presence and speaking training, really to boost that engagement for leaders, for teams, for anyone that really needs to or really values what it means to communicate well and getting really, really comfortable and good at using these virtual settings, to make yourself look good, sound good, and maybe even stand out from the others that will continue to do it really badly.
Yeah, the very good skill to brush up on these days. Peter, thank you. This was great. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, Croatia's back up at the top of the list. I can't wait to get there, and hopefully in real life we can get together and have a drink and sit down and talk in real life soon.
Definitely. And I hopefully we can do that and meet in person and maybe even do this again on another topic.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you again so much. And yeah, we will be in touch. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. You can visit aboutabroad.com to get our latest updates and listen to past episodes, or find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, really anywhere you get your podcasts. On that note, if you enjoyed the show, feel free to subscribe, and if inclined, leave a few stars and a review. It's truly, truly appreciated and will help more wanderers just like you find us. Until the next time, adios from España.